Hello, investors. This is Connor Bates, Associate Portfolio Manager with Revere Asset Management. Today's Thursday, October 30th, 4:42 p.m. Eastern Time. Come to it tonight's Revere Roundup Daily Market Insight video. Market state, we are in an uptrend. If you look trend gauge over here, market leaders in grow mode. Short term, the S&P and Qs are above the 21 EMA. RSP, mid caps, small caps continue to underperform and struggle versus big cap tech. Medium term, RSP and MDY continue to struggle at the 50-day moving average. And then long term, everything remains above the 200-day moving average. What happened today? Last night, President Xi and President Trump met, and they reached a trade agreement. But the market pulled back today across the board. So 21 over 21 list was down 2.27%, 4 green, 1 neutral, 16 red. Turbo 12 down 2.57%, 1 green, 11 red. Big 8 down 2.75, RG8 down 1.65, S&P down about 1%, Equate down about 0.5%. Q is down about 1.5%, Equate down 0.63, Dow Jones Industrial Average down 0.29, mid caps down 1%, Russ 2000 down 0.81, 60/40 stock and bond down 0.6, flagship portfolio GROTECTION down 1.18, TurboTection down 1.09%. Let's get into the interest correlation. And market pulling back to the 8 EMA. Nothing out of the ordinary. 3 gap ups in a row, getting extended from the 50 and the 21 day. So all in all, this is pretty healthy. And as long as it holds this kind of 67, 64 spot, that's level to watch. That was kind of the base breakout zone, but acting fine. Normal to see a pullback after that sharp of a move, and you can see the 60 minutes already getting oversold. So see if that starts to look back up. RSP just this is how the market's been. Potentially people are chasing big cap tech into end of the year for performance, and other areas of the market are weakening. Breadth has been awful, and RSP displays that quite well. Tried to rally back up, but rejected the 821 and the 50-day moving average, and the relative strength line has just been off a cliff. It just continues to be quite weak. Q's also similar to the SP, pulling back to the 8 EMA, looks fine. Mag 7, this one was down 3% today, quite weak. You had Meta gap down on earnings, Google gapped up, kind of didn't really do a whole lot in the regular trading session, and then Microsoft again, nothing. Let's take a look at these charts. Meta, gapping below the 200-day moving average, that is not a good look. Microsoft again down 3% on earnings, and then Google up 2.5%, but closed near the lows after it was gapping up much bigger. And you can see, hit over 290 about, and then closed around 280. And that was kind of weighing in on the mags. And then Netflix is another one that's below the 200-day moving average. You can see it's up 3% after hours. They just announced a 10-for-1 stock split. So we'll see if that can find some reclaim the 200-day on that news. But nevertheless, anything below 200-day moving average is not a great sign. And then, back to the max chart again, as 65.73 is another spot support along with the 21. Dow Jones Industrial Average just pulling back mildly today. Mid caps, similar look. It just money is not going to this areas of the market, rejected the breakout spot and closed below 50-day moving average. Russ 2000, try to hold the 21 today, close slightly below, see if this can reclaim tomorrow. ARC losing the 21 as well. RS line making lower highs. FFTY pulling back again after rejecting this 41.36 pivot. VIX ticked up a little bit today at 16.91, still below 18. The dollar, this is kind of what touched reason for the market pulling back a little bit today. This is this is trying to break out from this bottoming formation above that downtrend line. Gold potential undercut and reclaim of the 21. You can see how oversold it's gotten. GDX as well, reclaiming the 50-day, and you can see how oversold it's gotten. Silver, same thing, rallying back up. Bitcoin Talked about it being, if you want to hear my thoughts, watch yesterday's video on it, potentially being a stage three, but again, weak again. Micro strategies reported earnings. This is making new lows again today, up a small 2.5%, but the stock doesn't really trade off earnings. It's just a levered Bitcoin. But again, not good action. And Bitcoin potentially might lose the 200-day moving average. Bonds pulling back, TLT, same thing. Rates tick back up. TNX, you can see that there. All right. Let's get into the tail of the tape. So, percent of stocks with the 5-day moving average. Like I mentioned, Breath is very oversold as all the money has been going in big cap tech and other things have been weakening. So you can see only 28% of S&P 500 stocks are above the 5-day moving average and only 25 are above for the NASDAQ 100. And then every Thursday, sentiment changes. So AAII, bears ticked up 8 points to 44. So that's above the historical average. And then bears ticked down about 6 points to 36.9. And then NAM exposure index. This is the one to look at. This registered a reading over 100. This is the highest reading this year. And this survey basically surveys positioning for investment managers. And when this gets over 100, that's a red flag. And it can be a lagging indicator, like the market can chop around. But if you study prior readings where this was over 100, it almost always led to a market pullback, whether that be 3%, whether that be 5%, whether that be 10%. That's always unknown, and it can also lag. I've seen it before where, you got 100 plus NAM reading and the market chopped around for 2 weeks, maybe made another new high before pulling back. So again, something to keep an eye out for. And it's not necessarily surprising given the moves in some of the big tech names like Nvidia. You could see it in the tape that people are piling in there. So again, it's a secondary indicator. Another scenario that we can see is, big tech pulls back and then money goes into small caps, equal weight, stuff like that. So that's another scenario. News-wise, China and US talked about that and some notes on that. Fentanyl tariffs cut to 10%. And then also, And then China will also purchase massive amounts of soybeans, energy, and farm products. That was just kind of some notes. And then Amazon and Apple reported after hours today. I'll cover those when we get into the charts. Today's keys, S&P and the Qs above the 821, Russell faltering at the 821 and all-time highs. 2-day consolidation, 9 days above the 8, 10 days above the 21 EMA. Sectors wise, oil, gold, rare earths, uranium, biotech strength today, weakness, semiconductors, Mag 7, solar, software, and Bitcoin. GROTECTION today, no changes, 1.16 RVAB, and then Revere estimated balance at risk minus 5.30%. TurboTection bought positions in MDB and PATH, and then added on to quadruple U and URTY, 1.6 RVAB minus 5.56 balance at risk. Bottom line, US and China reach trade agreement. Market pulls back / digests. Okay. Let's take a look at Amazon, currently up almost 12% at almost near 250. And this is breaking out of we're talking, let's take a look at the weekly. It's breaking out of almost a year base. It's been the laggard in the Mag 7 and now getting a catalyst on earnings. So potentially this is the fuel that it needed to start to trend, and that's a really good sign. And yeah, out of a huge base, Amazon's really making the leap in the robotics, and that could be an angle is that sector hasn't really seen a ton of momentum. The robotics plays. Teradyne's another good example that both portfolios own. And then Apple, let's take a look here. Up 4%. That's great to see. 282. Can't complain about that. Some other earnings. Reddit reported up 2%. Very weak chart. Western Digital continuing the trend with memory stocks up another 12%. Unbelievable strength. Coinbase up pretty much flat on earnings, pretty much the most. Most notable ones on the earnings front. Let's take a look at 21/21 list. MongoDB, we bought this in Turbo today, breaking out through this nice looking base. CLS consolidating at the highs after an earnings gap. Raytheon consolidating at the highs after a gap. Snowflake continuing higher after the space breakout. Corning inside day at highs. Micron again, such low volatility, just trending up, building higher lows, moving linear. Can't really ask for much more. CrowdStrike, as long as it holds above this 517 pivot, doing nothing wrong. Halliburton consolidating after a strong 3-day move. LEU consolidating here looks pretty good. Uranium stocks are acting great. Nvidia, nothing wrong with this after 4 days up, quite strong. Low volume pullback, still holding above 200. Palantir, same thing here. Um, as long as it holds above 190, looks fine. PRT, slight pullback as well. Credo, potential double top here. This looks like a little bit of a janky base to me. A lot of volatility in here. The stock's gone on a huge run. Ideal situation would be for this to handle out. Sometimes these, big move up, swift pullback, and then just V-shape back up into left side resistance can cause some frustration. So ideal world, this would handle out, form better base. WGMI sitting right at the 21. See if this can potentially break out this downtrend line for solar, pulling back to the 21. BABA pulling back to 21 as well. AMD, low volume pullback, consolidating at the highs. Tesla sitting right at 21. A little bit of relative weakness today, but as long as 21 can hold, looks instructive. HUD, um, uh, rejected this downtrend line, come back into the 21. SoFi as well, rejected that 30 pivot, pulling back a little bit, and then light inside day at the highs after a strong move. Turbo 12, TMDX, big, lots of volatility on earnings, initially gapped down and then reclaimed and closed quite nicely. Nice strong beat in the medical sector. This is on watch, can tighten up below this top of this base for potential breakout. Carbon, low volatility, uptrend, looks good. SYM, holding gains after yesterday's expansion candle. SCCO, continued higher from this continuation flag. Copper's got a huge base that's been breaking out. And what they say, Dr. Copper, if copper is acting well, it's typically a good sign for the markets. AAOI, just super choppy. It just can't really blast off since it's breaking out, but soon nothing wrong. Path, bought a started here in Turbo today. Undercut and reclaim of the 21 day and this kind of base. This has got good sales growth, good earnings numbers, had partnerships with OpenAI, NVIDIA. This was the catalyst right there. Nice move up, and now it's building higher low off the 21 day. It's got a huge weekly base. Show that right now. You can see, and it could be the leader in the agentic AI if those type stocks start to move. Temps AI sitting at the 50-day, probably one of the choppiest stocks in the market, to be honest. Irene sitting at the 21 day maybe could be offering an entry here, earnings in 7 days. Sandus inside day at the highs, number one industry group for a reason. And we've just been highlighting how strong these stocks are acting. You got price action, you have fundamentals, you have group, you have theme, you have macro tailwinds, everything really, and continue to act well. BE inside day after that earnings gap. Baidu breaking the 21. SoundHound as well. Another turbo trade, UUU, added onto this one as it reclaimed the 21 day. And take a look at URA. This could be a potentially really big theme. These have go to the monthly, like just huge base is breaking out, and many names in the sector acting well. CCJ kicked it off earlier this week on that catalyst right there, holding up at the highs. And so yeah, keep an eye on uranium stocks and just anything power. Besson again today said the US is behind China on nuclear power, but will catch up. And then he also said it's all hands on deck for nuclear power. So again, the administration is really telling you as well. And then another one is, Oklo closed for a stock like this, it moves over 10% a day. So down 4% is less than half an ATR. So that's not really that negative. But again, this had an offering in it and it closed down less than a full ATR, and this is getting tight at the 21, potentially signaling a move in one way or the other sometime soon. Eli Lilly, this was another earnings today, up almost 4%. Looks pretty good. Huge base, has been choppy for a while, but pretty strong report. So, um, all in all, just taking it day by day, watching the S&P to hold the 8 and the 21 on pullbacks, and then just looking for new leadership, low risk entries, and ride the wave. So that is going to wrap it. As always, like to hear from you. My email is connor@revereasset.com. You can reach out to me on Twitter at connorjbates_. Phone is 855 Real Wealth, 855-732-5932. And if you're ever interested in becoming a client, as always, please reach out. Thanks for watching and have a great evening.